city councilman, Ash Kalra, on the board, who I met once briefly at an event that I invited you all to come to at the beginning of the semester over in the Martin Luther King Library. It was a super high-powered thing. This guy who, directs the Singularity University on the campus of NASA Ames. And it's a place where these young, promising people go to learn how to change the world. And this guy came and gave this whiz-bang talk on the future of the world that was, I think, maybe way overly optimistic. But anyway, I met the guy. I mean, I would like to believe everything he said, but it was interesting. But anyway, this guy, Ash, somehow we made the connection that I teach climate here. And he came and I said, hey, look, come and talk in your class. I said, it's a teensy-weensy little class. I'll come anyway. So, hey, man, thanks for coming by. And I don't know anything about Ash. Maybe he can tell us a little bit about his background and more what City of San Jose is doing and planning to do about climate. And then he and I worked out with my buddy here, Paul, who is an extra credit opportunity, ECO, for you guys. By the way, he's got an environmentally cool green business in Santa Cruz. He could use your help for maybe 3 to 5 hours doing some research, for super extra credit on stuff that he'll talk about. And he'll tell us before Ash has to leave at about 9:20 to go to a closed session of the city council, hoofed across campus with Paul in tow. Before they both leave, Paul will pitch to you and him what his company is doing, and then we'll get his quick take on it, whether the city of San Jose maybe could use this same thing that the city of Santa Cruz and various commercial, corporate accounts are doing. So more later on all that, but Ash, take it away. Tell us what you're about, where you're from, who you, and so on. Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, as mentioned,
let's give him a hand for being here.
My name is Ash Kalra, and I'm on the San Jose City Council, and this is my 6th year on the council. Grew up in South San Jose, went to Oak Grove High School, went on to graduate from UC Santa Barbara, and then got a law degree from Georgetown. And then practiced as a lawyer in the public defender's office for 11 years before getting elected to the city council. In addition to being on the city council, there's a lot of different appointments you can potentially receive as an elected official. So some of those appointments include my being on the Bay Area Air Quality Management District Board. And so they oversee the air quality and some of the issues that you discussed in this class throughout the 9 Bay Area counties. And so talking about 6-7 million people. I was the chair of the board last year, and I still continue to serve on the board. I'm also on the Caltrain board, so the train system that runs from Gilroy to San Francisco, the Baby Bullets and all that. We're at max capacity. We're at our highest ridership ever. 53,000 plus people ride it every day. I'm also on the BTA board, the Bus Light Rail System, bringing BART to San Jose and congestion management. And this year I'm the chair of BTA. And so I wear a lot of different hats, and the experience I've gained in the few years I've been in office has taught me a lot about transportation infrastructure and housing and planning, but one common theme of a lot of it is environmental issues and climate change and what we need to do as a community and as a society to combat a lot of that. And so on the policy side, in the air district, in the year that I was the chair this past year, we were the first air district in the nation to pass a climate action plan. We were also the first air district in the nation to pass a resolution opposing the Keystone Pipeline. I don't know if any others have done it in the interim, but we were certainly, we may be the very only ones at this point that have done both of those things. We also do a lot of regulatory actions. So there was a Chevron fire back in 2012, and last year we imposed different types of fees and regulations, but unfortunately a lot of issues occur in Sacramento when you're trying to get the good policy done. The oil companies have a lot of power there. And so trying to assess more regulatory fees and more investigative powers with our air district, which represents all of you, it's a taxpayer-funded organization, public organization, is very challenging. We also have the Lehigh Cement Plant in Cupertino, where this past couple years we enforced the most stringent air quality guidelines on any cement plant in the nation, especially because it's right next to a population center. Being on the BTA board, of course, promoting transit is something that has a dramatic impact on climate change as well. I mean, it's all incremental when we talk about the impact on our climate. And right now, the state has a requirement for the state cumulatively to reduce its greenhouse gas emissions to 90% or 80% of 1990 levels. So although we're increasing in population, we're increasing in the amount of folks that need to get to and from school and work and what have you, we're actually the goal is to be on pace to reduce our climate action, our greenhouse gas emissions to 80% of 1990 levels. And so it's going to take a lot of work to get there. We certainly have a lot of work to do in terms of vehicles. Vehicle emissions is the major cause, but there are a lot of other low-hanging fruit. Some of the things that the Air District does, you've heard of the Spare the Air Days. So the summer Spare the Air Days, I think today is actually the first one they're calling, is a way to encourage folks to not drive, or to carpool, use transit, try to find some other way rather than driving alone to work, telecommuting even. And so initially, when the program was first started, there was funding to allow for free transit on BART and BTA and whatever it might be. That expired, but the good news is that the impact of the program still exists. We do see more transit ridership, we do see more carpooling on Spare the Air Days. Our Winter Spare the Air Days actually has a punitive effect. On Winter Spare the Air, you're not allowed to do any wood-burning smoke on Spare the Air Days. So whenever it's over a certain threshold of particulate matter in the air, you're not allowed to burn wood. Wood is really bad for the lungs. Wood burning smoke is really bad for the lungs, particularly with those that have asthma or children or elderly. But in general, the particulate matter is much larger than what you might see in other kinds of emissions, but it's still small enough to get into your airways and get into your lungs. And so that's why we have the Winter Spare the Air, and we've seen a dramatic decrease in winter air pollution because of that. And it usually happens when it's not rainy, it's a cool day, people are burning the wood smoke, so the smoke just sits in the atmosphere. There's no wind to blow it around, there's no rain to wash it away. And so that's why we have the Winter Spare the Air. And we've gotten some criticism because a lot of almost always, Thanksgiving Day and Christmas Day are Spare the Air Days. It's just because people are home and people, in the days leading up to it, start burning the smoke. And if it's a dry Thanksgiving or a dry Christmas, it tends to be a Spare the Air Day. So we've gotten past that period of the initial, I think we started the Spare the Air Days maybe 5-6 years ago in the winter. And so now it's become quite a successful program, and you can get fined if you're burning wood, or you have to take a class on wood burning, but you can do an online thing. But we're just trying to make sure we educate the community as to why there are issues with it. Also, something that you've noticed around campus, I hope, the Air District is the lead agency for the Bay Area Bike Share program. So you have the bikes by MLK. It's in 5 different cities. There are now over 1,400 bikes throughout the Bay Area, and it's a great way. It's kind of that first and last mile concept, where if you're going to take transit, oftentimes the issue is, well, when you get to your bus stop, you get to your train station. Well, what do you do then? How do you get to where your final destination? This is the first phase of that. The most ridership we're still seeing with the bikes in San Francisco, because San Francisco is still more densely populated. People are still more comfortable with not having to drive around. And so we're trying to get more usage in places like San Jose. I'm also, just especially as VTA chair, but I'm trying to be more cognizant as well. I took the bus today. I walked from my home about 3/4 of a mile to the bus stop. I live over in South San Jose. So at Snell and Chenoweth, took the bus, got off, stopped at Phil's, and walked over here.
Paul and I took the Highway 17 bus over from San
Yeah.
Diego. Let's give this guy a standing ovation for doing that. By the way, do you all know what VTA means?
Valley Transit Authority.
Yeah, Valley Transportation Authority, that's right. And so the big project VTA is doing is bringing BART to San Jose, but there are a lot of other projects, including a lot of the pedestrian projects. You see a lot of the greenways and the bike lanes. That's been funded through MTC, the Metropolitan Transportation Commission, which is a Bay Area wide region, kind of like the Air District, but for transit. A lot of funds comes to that organization. Unfortunately, a lot of the funds get stuck in San Francisco and in the North Bay or in Oakland, as we're trying to get more and more funds for projects down here. But ultimately, the bottom line is there's hundreds of ways we can improve our cumulative effect on greenhouse gases. That includes industry, it includes the way we build our homes and the way that we drive. And one program we were just discussing a moment ago is something that some San Jose State students, I met with them early or late last year. The same class that Professor Scott Myers-Lipton teaches, which is about social change and social action. They're the ones that led the minimum wage increase a couple years ago, which I was very proud to support in the past, despite fierce opposition from most of my colleagues on the council, unfortunately, in the mayor and Chamber of Commerce. But it passed, it's been very successful, it's been very helpful to the local economy by putting more money in people's pockets. Now they came to meet with me and say, what should we do next? And they like the idea of getting solar panels on roofs, and so I said connect that with the oil extraction fee, and I think you have a winner. And so that's what they're doing, something called Solar for All. And just a few weeks back, we had Van Jones and Tom Styler, who's this billionaire that's all about trying to do green and impact climate change positively. And we had a great turnout for a town hall there. And so that's something you may hear more about, is your fellow students that are the ones that are pushing that.
This is the thing I've been trying to get you guys to go to. They have meetings every Thursday, solarforallcalifornia.org. I gave you the website, but I'll give it to you again. But anyway, so we're keyed in with that. They would use the money from an oil extraction tax in this state, which every other state which does oil extraction, they do tax it, but we don't. In fact, Alaskans get a yearly check back from the oil industry because of that tax they do. We should start doing it here and use the money for solar, which is what Solar for All California is about.
Yeah, the idea is basically a homeowner puts out $2,500, the state puts up the rest. And so it won't be just, you'll bring solar down to the working class, the middle class, folks that right now struggle to get solar on the roofs, and just, you'll provide jobs for at least 60,000 people every year to put the panels up on the roof. So they're great. It's a great opportunity. The oil industry will fight it. We'd expect at least $100 million from them to fight the measure. And that's okay. We've beaten them before. We've lost them on occasion, but that's why I think it's great to start at the university level, start with college students that can really build that momentum from the grassroots level.
We have one.
But no, I was going to say, lastly, I just want to mention about the city. The city does a lot of things in terms of planning and how we design our city, urban villages, what have you. We do give a lot of thought about how to create communities where people don't have to drive, create communities where you have your work near, the restaurants near your home. And so we're trying to get there. If you notice in North San Jose, where there's already tons of industry, a lot of residential housing has been built to get the employees close to their jobs. And so you're going to see more and more of that. It's called transit-oriented development, where we build transit along Caltrain lines, along BART, along BTA light rail, and just make it easier and easier. Downtown already has it built in, where if you live downtown, you don't really need a car. For the most part, everything you basically need is around here. And now we have ride-share programs, and we have the zip cars and all that you can get if you really needed to get away for the day. But in general, we're trying to create those communities, and so public policy definitely has a very direct link to impacts on climate change and what we do as a community.
I was going to just ask if one of you, of my students, could ask council member a question.
Yeah.
And then we'll do a quick exchange between him and Paul here, and then they both have to be on their way. So, any burning questions from any of you all?
You said that you want to, you said something about 1990 level.
Yeah.
What does that mean exactly?
Carbon
So
dioxide.
yeah, that's a state mandate that actually Schwarzenegger first put in place, and Jerry Brown has now put in. There's been further legislation to help local jurisdictions get there, because even the state puts the rule. It all comes down to the local level, what local governments and counties and air districts do. What that means is basically have the carbon dioxide level in the atmosphere to drop it to 80% below the levels it was at in 1990.
Okay.
So it's pretty dramatic.
Yeah.
But the goal is to do it by 2050.
Oh,
But to get there, I mean, the population is going to continue to grow. We'll have millions and millions and millions more people in the state in 2050 than we did in 1990, in the order of probably 10, 20 million more. And so it's really going to be critical for us to find alternate ways to commute. We have electric cars now, but even having electric cars, the source of electricity is still, for the most part, polluting sources. So we have to get more solar, we have to do more wind, and the cars are getting more efficient, which is great. We have hydrogen cars that are now going to be on the market within a couple of years. Right now, we're putting hydrogen fuel stations around the Bay Area, so to be prepared for a couple of years when hydrogen vehicles are there.
And let's quiz these folks. What's the exhaust when you consume hydrogen fuel? My students. What's the exhaust? Come on, folks.
Water.
It's pure H2O.
Yeah,
Okay.
pure water.
Hey, so this is a match made in heaven. I didn't even realize this. You're all about transportation. Did you hear a lot about transportation in what this county, which is a big one in climate? And Paul McGrath here is Mr. Transportation, Mr. Alternative Transportation, Green Transportation in Santa Cruz, California. He has a half a minute right now to give you his elevator pitch on his company. And I've got two ecos for you. One involving this, and the other one. Let me just ask if I get collection of questions from them to ask you, which we don't have time. If they email me questions for you, I can put them together, send them to you, you send me all your answers, I send them back to them, and anybody who sends me questions for you gets extra credit. Would you be willing to do that?
Yeah, I'd be happy to.
Excellent, thanks. Okay, Paul, go.
Thanks, Joe. So